There's something I want to share with you today, something I've carried with me through every triumph and every fall. A simple truth that once confused me, terrified me even, but eventually it became the compass that guided everything. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life or how college was going to help me figure it out. Those words, they sound like failure, don't they? Like the confession of someone lost. Maybe you've felt that way too. Maybe you're feeling it right now, sitting there, wondering if the path you chose or the path that chose you was the wrong one all along. I'm not here to tell you some fairy tale where everything works out perfectly. I'm here to tell you about the messy, confusing, sometimes heartbreaking journey of a life that didn't follow the script. My life. And maybe in some small way, your life too. Let me take you back to the beginning. 19 years old, sitting in a college classroom at Reed College in Portland. My parents had saved every penny to send me there. They weren't wealthy people. My father was a mechanic. But they believed in education the way people believe in salvation. They thought college would save me, would give me a future. But I sat there in that classroom, and all I could think was, what am I doing here? The classes felt meaningless. Not because they were bad, but because I couldn't see how they connected to anything I cared about. I'd look around at the other students, and they all seemed to know where they were going. They had plans, engineering, medicine, law. They had these clear paths laid out before them like train tracks leading to a destination. And me? I had nothing. No plan, no passion that fit into any of those neat boxes, just this restless feeling that I was wasting my parents' money, wasting my time, wasting something precious that I couldn't even name. You ever feel that? That gnawing sensation that you're supposed to be somewhere else, doing something else, but you don't know what or where. It's like being hungry but not knowing what food would satisfy you. It's terrifying. So I did something that probably sounds crazy. I dropped out. I remember the day I told my parents. My mother cried. Not angry crying, but the kind of crying that comes from deep disappointment. My father just looked at me with these tired eyes and asked, "Are you sure?" Was I sure? Number. I wasn't sure of anything. That's what made it so hard. I was jumping off a cliff with no idea if there was water below or just rocks. But here's the thing, and maybe this will resonate with you. Sometimes the wrong path feels so wrong that even uncertainty feels more honest than continuing the lie. I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't keep sitting in those classes, nodding along, when every fiber of my being was screaming that this wasn't where I was supposed to be. After I dropped out, I didn't leave campus right away. I stayed around, slept on friends' floors, returned Coke bottles for the 5-cent deposits to buy food. I was broke, directionless, and by every conventional measure, I was a failure. But something strange happened. For the first time in my life, I started following my curiosity instead of following a syllabus. There was this calligraphy class at Reed. Beautiful, artistic calligraphy. I had no practical reason to take it. It wasn't going to get me a job. It wasn't going to impress anyone. But I loved it. The elegance of the letters, the attention to detail, the way that form and function could merge into something beautiful. I'd sit in that class, and for those hours, nothing else mattered. Not my uncertain future, not the disappointment in my parents' eyes, not the fact that I was sleeping on floors and scrounging for meals. In that class, I was present. I was alive. Did I know it would matter someday? That 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, those calligraphy lessons would inspire the beautiful typography that set the Mac apart from every other computer? Number! I had no idea. None. That's the paradox, isn't it? The things that seem most impractical, most useless, most disconnected from real life, those are often the things that end up mattering most. But you can't see it when you're in it. You can only see it looking backward. I want to be honest with you about something. Following your curiosity, trusting your instincts. It sounds romantic when you're hearing about it in a story, but when you're living it, it's scary as hell. There were nights I lay awake wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life, wondering if I was just a dropout, a failure, someone who couldn't hack it in the real world. Maybe you've had nights like that too, nights where you question everything, where you wonder if you should have just stayed on the safe path, even if it was slowly killing your spirit. I won't lie to you and say those doubts ever completely go away. They don't. Even years later, even after success, there's always that whisper, what if you're wrong? What if you fail? What if you lose everything? But here's what I learned. That fear, that uncertainty, it's not a sign you're on the wrong path. Sometimes it's a sign you're on the most important path, the one that's actually yours. Fast forward a few years, I'd found my calling, or so I thought. Steve Wozniak and I started Apple in my parents' garage. We were kids, really. I was barely 21. But we had this vision, this crazy idea that computers could be personal, that they could belong in homes, that technology could be beautiful and intuitive and human. And against all odds, it worked. Apple grew. We went public. I was on magazine covers. People called me a genius, a visionary. At 30 years old, I was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I should have been happy, right? I should have felt like I'd made it, like I'd proven everyone wrong who doubted me. But success is a strange thing. It can blind you, it can make you arrogant, it can make you forget the curiosity and openness that got you there in the first place. I became difficult to work with. I was demanding, perfectionist to a fault. I thought I had all the answers. And slowly, the very company I'd built, the thing I loved more than anything, started to turn against me. Then came 1985. The board of directors, people I'd brought in, people I'd trusted, they made a decision. They voted me out. Not out of a project, not out of a role, out of Apple, my own company, the company that bore my name, my vision, my soul. I can't describe to you what that felt like. Well, I can try. It felt like being erased, like everything I'd built, everything I'd believed in, everything I'd sacrificed, it was all being taken away. And the worst part, I couldn't even say they were completely wrong. I'd made mistakes. I'd been too rigid, too convinced of my own righteousness. For months, maybe years, I was lost, truly lost. Not the romantic kind of loss like when I dropped out of college, where there was still possibility ahead. This was different. This was the loss of identity. I was Steve Jobs, the guy who'd built Apple. Without Apple, who was I? I'd wake up in the morning, and for a brief moment, I'd forget. Then it would hit me all over again, that hollow feeling in your chest, that sense that your purpose has been ripped away. Have you ever felt that? That sensation that the thing that defined you is gone, and you're just empty? I thought about leaving Silicon Valley entirely, starting over somewhere else, doing something completely different. There were days I didn't want to get out of bed, days where I'd drive past the Apple campus and feel this mixture of anger and grief so intense it was physical. But somewhere in that darkness, something began to shift. Maybe it was pride, maybe it was stubbornness, maybe it was just that same restless curiosity that made me drop out of college all those years ago. But I realized something. They could take away my company, but they couldn't take away what I'd learned. They couldn't take away my ability to create. So I started over. At 30 years old, with all the money in the world but feeling like I had nothing, I started over. I founded NeXT Computer. I bought a little animation studio that would become Pixar. And here's the strange thing. Being forced to start over, being humbled, being stripped of everything I thought defined me, it freed me. It freed me to be a beginner again, to be curious again, to make mistakes without the weight of a billion-dollar company on my shoulders. At Next, we pushed boundaries. We created technology that was ahead of its time. Was it commercially successful right away? Number. Did people doubt me? Absolutely. Did I doubt myself? Every single day. But at Pixar, something magical was happening. We were making Toy Story, the first fully computer-animated feature film. People thought we were crazy. Animation studios didn't take us seriously. But we believed in something they didn't. We believed that technology and art could create something entirely new. I won't pretend it was easy. There were times at Next when we were running out of money, times at Pixar when the whole project seemed impossible, times when I'd think, maybe they were right to fire me, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. That doubt, that fear, it never really leaves. Even when you're succeeding, there's always that voice asking, what if this is as far as you go? What if you can't do it again? I'm telling you this because I want you to know, if you're feeling that way now, you're not alone. If you're lying awake at night wondering if you made the right choices, if it's too late to start over, if you've wasted your best years, I've been there. I've been in that dark place where the past looks like failure and the future looks like more of the same. But here's what I learned in those years after Apple fired me. Being fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner, again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. Does that mean I'm glad it happened? That's complicated. Would I have chosen that pain? Number. But did it teach me something essential? Did it break me open in a way that made space for something new? Yes. Then in 1997, something I never expected happened. Apple was struggling. They'd lost their way without whatever it was I'd brought to the company. And they asked me to come back. Coming back to Apple wasn't triumphant in the way movies make it look. It was terrifying. What if I failed again? What if I'd lost whatever magic I'd once had? What if everyone was watching, waiting for me to prove I was just a has-been? But I'd learned something in those wilderness years. I'd learned that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the path to success. I'd learned that getting knocked down doesn't mean you're done. It means you have a choice. Stay down or get back up. So I got back up. We rebuilt Apple. We created the iMac, the iPod, the iPhone, the iPad. We changed entire industries. But more than that, we proved something I'd always believed, that technology should be beautiful, intuitive, human, that it should serve people, not the other way around. Was I confident every step of the way? God, no. Every product launch, I'd have moments of doubt. What if people hate it? What if we're wrong? What if this is the one that fails? But I'd also learn to trust something deeper than confidence. I'd learn to trust the process, to trust curiosity, to trust that if you put your whole heart into something, even if it fails, you'll learn something valuable. You know what I think now, looking back on all of it? I think we spend so much time trying to follow the right path, trying to make the safe choices, trying to live up to other people's expectations. We think there's some map we're supposed to follow, some predetermined route to success and happiness, but there isn't. There's no map. There's just you and your curiosity and your willingness to keep going even when you're scared, even when you fail, even when everyone thinks you're crazy. Some of you watching this, you might be in your 50s, your 60s, maybe you're thinking it's too late. Maybe you dropped out of something or got fired or took a wrong turn somewhere, and now you feel like your best years are behind you. I understand that feeling. I've felt it. That ache of thinking you've wasted time, made wrong choices, ended up somewhere you never intended to be. But can I tell you something? It's never too late to start following what makes you curious. It's never too late to start over. It's never too late to create something meaningful. Will it be easy? Will there be doubt and fear and nights when you wonder what the hell you're doing? Yes, absolutely. But the alternative, spending the rest of your life wondering, what if? That's harder. That's the real tragedy. I'm not telling you to quit your job tomorrow or blow up your life. I'm telling you to start paying attention to what makes you curious, what makes you feel alive, even if it seems impractical or silly. Those little sparks of interest, they're trying to tell you something. Maybe it's learning to paint. Maybe it's starting that business you've always dreamed about. Maybe it's writing or building things with your hands or teaching or traveling to that place you've always wanted to see. Maybe it's finally being honest about who you really are and what you really want. It won't look like anyone else's path. It shouldn't. Your path is yours. And the beautiful, terrifying truth is that you're the only one who can walk it. Will you fail sometimes? Probably. I did. Multiple times. Spectacularly, publicly, painfully. But those failures taught me more than success ever did. They broke me open. They made me human again. They gave me empathy and wisdom and a deeper understanding of what really matters. What really matters isn't the title on your business card or the size of your bank account or whether you followed the path everyone expected you to follow. What really matters is whether you're being true to yourself, whether you're following your curiosity, whether you're creating something, learning something, becoming someone that feels authentic to who you really are. I know you might be scared. That's okay. I'm telling you, be scared and do it anyway. Be uncertain and move forward anyway. Be imperfect and create anyway. The dots will connect. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but looking backward, you'll see how everything fit together, how that failure prepared you for this success, how that detour led you to this destination, how that ending was actually a beginning. You might be thinking, but what if I try and it doesn't work? What if I'm too old? What if I don't have the talent or the resources or the time? Those are real concerns. I'm not dismissing them, but let me ask you this. What if you don't try? What if you spend the rest of your life wondering? Which regret would be harder to live with? I have lived with both kinds of regret, the regret of failure and the regret of not trying. And I can tell you, the regret of not trying is worse, much worse, because at least when you try and fail, you learn something. You grow, you become more than you were. But when you don't try, when you play it safe, when you let fear win, you stay stuck, you stay small, and some part of you always wonders, what if I had been brave enough? I want you to be brave enough. Not recklessly brave, but authentically brave. Brave enough to listen to that quiet voice inside you that says there's more. Brave enough to take one small step toward what calls to you, even if you can't see the whole staircase. Remember, I'm not talking to you as someone who has it all figured out. I'm talking to you as someone who dropped out of college, who slept on floors, who got fired from his own company, who spent years doubting himself. I'm talking to you as someone who knows what it's like to feel lost. But I'm also talking to you as someone who kept going, who kept creating, who kept following curiosity even when it didn't make sense, and who, looking back, can see that every twist and turn, every failure and detour was exactly what needed to happen. You have so much left to give, so much left to create, so much left to discover about yourself and the world. Your story isn't over. It's not even close to over. Maybe you need to hear this today. You're not too old. You're not too late. You haven't missed your chance. The best chapters of your life might still be ahead of you. but only if you're willing to write them. Only if you're willing to pick up the pen, even with shaking hands, and start writing. Start small if you need to. Take one tiny step towards something that interests you. Read that book, take that class, have that conversation, make that thing. Whatever it is, just start. Because starting is everything. Starting is how you stop being stuck and start being alive again. And yes, you'll doubt yourself. Yes, you'll be scared. Yes, there will be setbacks and disappointments. But there will also be moments of pure joy. Moments when you're so absorbed in what you're doing that time disappears. Moments when you create something and think, I made that. That came from me. Those moments make everything worth it. I think about my life now, all these years later, about the college dropout who had no idea what he was doing, about the young entrepreneur who thought he knew everything, about the fired CEO who thought his life was over, about the man who started over and discovered he had more to give. All of those versions of me, they're all still here. The doubt, the curiosity, the fear, the passion, they're all still part of who I am. And that's okay. That's human. That's real. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be fearless. You don't have to know exactly where you're going. You just have to be willing to take the next step, and then the next one, and then the next one. That's all any of us can do. Take the next step, follow the next curiosity, create the next thing, live the next moment as fully and honestly as we can. So here's what I want to leave you with today. Whether you're 50, 60, or beyond, whether you feel like you've succeeded or failed or landed somewhere in between, whether you're content or restless, satisfied or searching, it's not too late. Your curiosity still matters. Your creativity still has value. Your story still has chapters left to write. And the path you're on, even if it's not the path you planned, even if it's messy and uncertain and nothing like what you imagined, it's your path. Own it. Walk it. See where it leads. Because looking back on everything, all the successes and failures, all the confidence and doubt, all the praise and criticism, I've realized something fundamental. When I was young, I stood at the beginning of everything and I couldn't see the path ahead. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life or how college was going to help me figure it out. And you know what? That confusion, that not knowing, it wasn't a weakness. It was a gift. It was freedom. It was the beginning of following my own path instead of someone else's map. And so if you're feeling lost right now, if you don't know what comes next, if you're questioning everything, good. You're in the exact right place. You're at a beginning. And beginnings, no matter when they come, are always full of possibility. Trust that. Trust yourself. Trust the journey. And most importantly, trust that it's never too late to start becoming who you really are.